Well, welcome to the podcast for Central Kitsap Presbyterian Church. My name is Ty Whitman. I'm the Ministry Associate and Youth Director here. And I get to be joined by our founding pastor, John Haberlin. And I was just telling him the reason that I felt that we should do this is because I love learning from conversations. Whether just be listening to a conversation or having a conversation with you, I felt like I've learned so much just from the few coffees or lunches or dinners that we've had together. And so I hope that that's the same for you, is that through these conversations with John and I and with other retired pastors and ministry leaders in our church, that you will be edified and be able to just glean wisdom and just goodness from these conversations. So thanks for saying yes, John.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I just want to start with this question. What is your favorite book that you've ever read? Maybe even top 3.
Oh, mercy. Oh, my. Probably Life Together, Bonhoeffer.
Okay. Yeah.
And the thing that probably, that is such a heavy book.
Yeah.
It's not for reading in a dark,
No.
rainy season. But the poem that's at the end of it, Who Am I, has been an incredible self-awareness for me. And yet it's who am I? Am I what people say?
Right.
Or only thou knowest, O God. And that's... So that'd be one. Oh, mercy! There's just I've got a library. Books for me generally are friends.
Yeah.
And probably can't quote a lot of them, but every time I see one of those books, that's why I hate to give them away. But
Yeah.
I'm going to. And I see them and I hear a conversation.
Yeah.
So what would be another one? Oh, mercy. Yeah, there was one that was really weird. It's the 4 levels of preaching.
Okay.
I was reading it for my doctorate, and I thought it was the stupidest book I had ever read. And unfortunately, I was reading it while Pam and I were on a vacation in Hawaii as a class project, so that probably lent itself to my dislike of it. But I found myself quoting it.
Huh.
And what it taught me was this incredible reality of the complexity of preaching.
Mm-hmm.
You have people for whom there is such a small sliver of awareness of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
To the depth of people who have lived a life of faith for decades.
Right.
And you're preaching to all those folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's absolutely a fascinating thing to watch as you try to touch each of these levels of where people could be in their experience. And knowing that if you're down here all the time in level 4 and the deep stuff, these people are going to just kind of go, okay, enough of that.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, that book really was transformative in not only preaching, but communicating, period.
Yeah. It's interesting how there are those books where where your initial reaction is, this book I'm not going to enjoy at all.
Yeah.
And you still may disagree with it. Not that you did it this way. You still may, but you find out so much new stuff through it.
Yeah.
Or it just completely changes your perspective on the author or what the author's saying.
Yeah.
There was a moment for me, I got to preach at Krista for as a interim chaplain for a little while, and I was like, what do I say to these people who have been in the church for, 3 times longer than I've been alive? So who am I to kind of, and it was that recognition of being able to do two things. One, hit the basics, because everybody needs the good news, just the basic gospel.
Yeah, right.
We always need to preach that and preach it to ourselves.
Yeah.
But also that there's a cool part that I can be really rich and really deep in my analysis and exposition. But that's yeah.
Well, one of the things that has really concerned me over the years, Christianity Today, about 30 years ago, did a survey, which I'm sure the survey has not improved. They went to Bible-believing churches.
Yeah.
And they defined that by if you advertised in the Yellow Pages. Now, that's before your time. We used to have phone books.
Yeah. I remember they were what I used to step on to get to the counter.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So they went to the phone books and found churches that advertised as Bible-believing churches. Let them define themselves.
Yeah.
And they said, can we survey some of your people? We are looking at Bible content that people have and spiritual content and so forth. They found, after surveying people all throughout this country, and I've forgotten how many they surveyed, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
They found that the average Bible-believing church pew sitter had a third grade level of understanding of Scripture.
Yeah.
In other words, what they had learned in third grade Sunday school had not been superseded.
Yeah.
So there's another article that just came out this last week about what people think Christianity is so far from what Christianity is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and there was an article that or a study that was very similar to that. That's recent, where they did evangelicals, which is we've talked about as a loaded term now.
Yeah. Right.
But the idea, they asked just basic questions. Was Jesus a creation of God? And unfortunately, I mean, a good 25% of evangelicals said yes.
Yeah.
Which, probably the language that they're being taught is close to that.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not what the Christians have believed for millennia.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not what the Bible teaches.
Right.
But yeah, you wonder, like, how do you fill those? You need to have that first level. I haven't read the book that you were talking about before, but you need
Don't
to
bother.
But you need to hit that.
I can outline it for you.
Yeah, you need to hit that first level, the basics.
Yep.
But Paul tells us that we need to move from the to liquid food to solid food.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just doesn't happen.
So I heard a personal story for you.
Yeah.
That you haven't heard. And I'm going to camouflage this so identities can't.
Yes.
I'll change it a little bit here and there. But there was a couple that I know very well. They members of the church here and very faithful, and they love both you and Tyler very, very, very much. Resonate probably a little bit more with Tyler's preaching.
Yep.
But they had a visitor who was from another country, who had stayed with them for a while, who hadn't bothered to come in and listen to the TV when we've been on this, whole COVID thing. And you were preaching one day, and this young man walks in and stands there for the whole time that you're preaching. And he was gripped because you were communicating to this young man. And, that's why we need the variety of voices.
Yeah.
And so that's what that book was about.
Yeah.
One size cannot fit all.
No. Yeah, I've always felt that I mean, Tyler and I I think we're complementary.
Oh yeah.
Because we are so different. We're similar in theology.
Yeah.
But in our, I mean, I will always say Tyler is so poetic and is able to grip you in story and narrative, and teach you the theology all at the same time. And
I'm totally envious.
yeah, but yeah, and to be able to then, and that's why it's nice that just every now and then we're told that our minds have to switch when I
Yeah.
get into the pulpit, because my brain doesn't work the same as his, but yeah,
Which is probably one of the most important things that we as a church need to understand.
yeah,
That if we're expecting people to come in here and look like us and think like us and be at our level and our perspective and our political or our whatever, we're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's because in the family of God there is this wide variety
Huge.
of both giftings and just the way that people think and that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, that's yeah. I mean, on a given week, I listen to 6 different guys other than Tyler, just because I want to be able to hear, just from their perspective. Now,
Yeah.
pastorally, for me, it's to be able to just learn from their preaching style. What do I like
Sure.
there? What do I not? But yeah, I think it's important to be able to have those other voices. So
Oh, yeah. And from my church growth background, one of the most
yeah,
dangerous things is when we want people to look, think, act, smell, eat like we do.
right,
That will be the death of the church.
yeah, yeah. We need to. I mean, that's the diversity and the both in age and ethnicity and all those different things, backgrounds, socioeconomic, and just thought backgrounds.
One of the things, this isn't, again, I know you wanted me to talk about books.
That's all right. No, yeah,
But one of the things I really appreciate about what we're seeing in our congregation right now is the use of art.
yeah,
We, as Reformed theologians, knew how to purge all art out
yes,
of
yeah,
the cathedrals, and sadly, we have inadvertently put a cement wall to those who think in terms of pictures rather than logic.
Yeah.
That kind of communication, and I think we need to give more freedom
yeah,
to communication by art. Jesus' painting of the verbal art of parables.
yeah. The stories, yeah,
They, and your picture that you will paint in your mind is going to be different
right,
than the
Yeah.
picture, and that's the wonderful thing of art. Anyhow, that's
Yeah.
not what you wanted.
No, I think that's great. I think, yeah, I can think of one painting in particular that turned the light switch on for me in the Cry of Dereliction, because I didn't like the preaching. Didn't make sense to me, the preaching of Jesus being forsaken by the Father. I just didn't think it made Trinitarian sense. And so there's I think it's the Masiasho Trinity or something like that. It's the Masiasho is the name of the painter, and it's Jesus on the cross. The Father is holding Jesus on the cross, and the dove, the Spirit, is descending onto him. I'm like, yeah, I mean, Jesus, I think in that cry, and there's so many books written about it, but
Yeah.
is experiencing as much as he could in his humanity separation from God,
Yeah.
but in his divinity he can't.
Yeah.
And he is, and we know in the end of that psalm, in Psalm 22, which I'm assuming Jesus knew fully, right? Of course, that he knows that God's not forsaking him, and I think it would make sense that the Father and the Spirit are with him in that moment. But it painted a different picture for me that I wasn't able to fully comprehend at the time. This was maybe 4 years ago, but yeah, I think art is such a powerful thing.
Yeah. Well, and let me challenge your fully comprehend. I still don't get it.
Right? Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, fully. Yeah, fully is probably the wrong word. All right, one more thing about books. What do you think the book in your just ministry time? What do you think that the book that influenced you the most is, other than the Bible? in your ministry experience? Or your walk with Jesus, maybe, either one.
You know, I'm not so sure that I would be able to pull one out.
Yeah.
Again, when you look at my library, it's just, and I will just simply sit back and look at the books, and there's these incredible conversations.
Yeah.
And so, which one stands out? I don't know. I guess in conjunction with the Psalms, C.S. Lewis wrote a book on the Psalms, and a couple of those really upset me. The reason I'm going to do this workshop on the acrostic Psalms is that when I was growing up, the Bible was just this book that was the same print, same sound, same look in Genesis as it was in Revelation.
Yeah.
And I figured that God not only dictated it, but ran the printing press that printed it off.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it.
Yeah.
And when I was at Seattle Pacific, and the prof there challenged us through three different books on Psalms. I began to realize, wait a minute, there is context here, and it shattered my feeling about this book to now see it as a living, dynamic thing.
Yeah.
Miraculous, absolutely miraculous. So I don't know, but I know I snuck into the Bible there. But
That's good. Yeah.
but I don't know how to say it. I think that was the trigger, a class and book that just kind of blew me apart.
How would you tell somebody who wants to read more theology, or just more study a little bit more as a layperson than they do? How do you discern what a good theology book is? Is there a process?
I'm not real excited about theology books.
Yeah.
That's an awful thing to say, because I certainly have a lot of them and read a lot of them. But I think so often the presupposition of a theology book is I'm going to give you the answer.
Yeah.
And I guess the older I get, the more vague things become. In an awesome way.
Yeah.
Not there's a rainbow, but oh my God, there's a rainbow.
Yeah.
And to just talk about rainbows or whatever, it's kind of like talking about the theology, and we got to get it. It's kind of a guy thing too.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
One of the things that women preachers have helped me with incredibly, and it's very irritating. My sermons, if you were to look back at my sermon outlines over the years, it's point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, and under that is point A, B, B, sub A.
Yeah.
And women have this innate ability to paint pictures. And I really think that that's more what Jesus did. And I think as I look at the Psalms or the stories of the Old Testament now, it's this picture of God interacting in these unique situations, and it becomes a dynamic thing rather than just a head thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. So theology, I hate the word theology, first of all.
Okay.
Because as soon as a person says, I don't believe in God, they have made a theological statement.
Yeah. Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Yet it can be as complex as when I saw Karl Barth's handwritten, typed manuscripts that went all the way across his room and came back across this way. I mean, thousands of pages
Yeah.
of typed
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is that theology, or is, I'm not sure what I believe about God,
Right.
which is a theological. So
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about
No,
that.
I mean, you do. I think if you to use the rainbow metaphor, if you exposited or exegeted the rainbow, you almost take the beauty out of it.
Yeah.
To go back to the Trinity again, the fully comprehend thing. If you Christians for since the beginning of Christianity really have believed in the Trinity, but at the same time have also believed that there's mystery embedded in it.
Oh,
There
yeah.
has to be, because to us, if there's a room of three people, we see three people.
You're right. Yeah.
And so it just doesn't compute to us that three persons are one being, and we don't distinguish between person and being. How does that work? How are they all three God, but they are all three distinct? Like, it's just, so there's mystery there, and so we should just let the mystery be mystery and not try to.
Yeah. I have been really pondering, who am I? Who am I, John Haberlin? And I like to horse around with this physiological thing that every 8 years our physical body changes.
Right.
And so I'm on my 10th or 11th body now. I'm
Yeah.
not sure which one. And so how is it that I can say I was in junior high?
Yeah.
What is there in that kind of a continuum? And as I begin to look at that, and then I begin to think, I tried to make a list of the people who have influenced my life.
Yeah.
And when I hit 50 people,
Yeah.
I was just finishing my first 10 years of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it goes like this.
Yep.
It doesn't just, elementary, you're kind of sheltered.
Yep.
But now through books and through experiences and through school and, travel and you name it, it just like this. And a little word like this that shapes my life. And I look, I think that one of the privileges of being old, and I am, is to be able to look back and see this incredible experience of where God said, no, you need to do this. And kind of, twing, twing, you're going there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Some rambling, but I think it's about mystery.
Yeah. So would you say maybe to a young person, or 20s, 30s, or maybe even high school student, who hasn't? Would you just say that they should just read just a large variety of authors, but also keep coming back to the Bible if they want to learn, if they're trying to maybe understand who they are, what they are, and who God is?
Yeah, I would definitely start number one with the Bible.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not sure that I would say the Bible. I would give them, I've got this little thing of, priorities of books in the Bible.
Yeah.
Because it isn't, it panics me every time I hear somebody say, I'm going to read the whole Bible through in a year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Some people say that's the most wonderful thing. I panic.
Yeah.
Because it is not supposed to be read that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like 66 different books.
Yeah.
And so I like to call it the library. And I like to be able to take out certain pieces of it to really explore more. So I don't know. It's I start with the Bible, the theology. I'm not so sure that it's as much about in Thy Word I meditate day and night. And you just told me before we started this, and I experienced it at 2 o'clock this morning. I had to get up and write a note about something I'm doing.
Right.
Because I really think God was speaking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had that.
Yeah.
And there isn't a good preacher or a teacher or a Christian that hasn't had that experience.
Right.
And so I think that the knowing of Scripture gives us that ability to ponder in the house of God.
Mm.
And sometimes it's best, I think, not to read, but to read a little bit of it, shut it, and just shut your eyes and be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good.
So I don't know, and I'm not against theology books. I've read a lot of them.
Right.
But that's why it's hard for me to say this is the greatest one I've ever read.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if there's doesn't matter who you read, someone's going to be wrong somewhere.
Well, in my preaching, I granted that. My only prayer in preaching on that was, God, if I'm about to say something really stupid, we have little babies in this church, sanctuary. Would you have them scream out and start crying, please?
How people forget that part. Yeah, please. Okay, well, I'm gonna take you back to a long time ago, maybe a long time ago. I want to know a little bit about how you became a Christian. I know a little bit about it, but I think it'd be a good thing to chat about. Is there a day where you remember like a conversion story, or was it just a long kind of stretched out process? What was that like for you, and has it changed as you look back at your life?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just say, if what some people say you have to have the exact time and date that then I'm not going to heaven.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I check that one out. Events in my life that were absolutely life altering, absolutely. I was told, and I can barely remember this. I was just a toddler.
Okay.
And some neighbors came over, and it was on a Saturday night, and he had been a coal miner, pretty severe alcoholic.
Okay.
But one of those absolute conversion experiences. I mean, it was dry from that moment on.
Wow.
And just but he was still wet at this time.
Okay.
And so he brought a 6-pack of beer over, and Mom was kind of a teetotaler, and so she dealt with how to push that out of the way.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, as not only I can kind of remember, but one of my first childhood memories, but my mom and dad told me, and Al told me. I kind of went off and into the living room, and I set up some chairs and found books. And I thought they were all Bibles. I didn't know the difference.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or hymn books.
Yeah.
And so we set it up, and I was the preacher.
Huh.
And they came in. Al died, and I get a phone call. Would you do the service for him? He was way over in Kent.
Wow.
And he says, or his wife says, Al always said that was the first church service he ever went to.
Wow. Wow.
The actual call into ministry was crazy.
Yeah.
Junior in high school. And I had a big project due the next day. Okay. And we had an evening service, and some guest preacher, I don't even remember who it was, but we had these invitations at the end of the service, just as I am without one plea. And we were going through verse number 23 or 24. I've forgotten what it was.
Yeah.
And, just on and on. And I'm going, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
And so he all of a sudden stops.
Huh.
And he says, nobody had come forward, because that's always, waited until somebody comes forward, so somebody has to stop the music.
Yeah.
And he says, someone here tonight is going to give their life to full-time Christian surface. And my feet were walking 3 feet ahead of my body. And from that moment on, I knew.
Yeah. Yeah. Irresistible call, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, I didn't know denominationally. I was actually looking at an organization called Village Missions at first.
Okay.
And then I wanted to be aviation missionary up in Alaska.
Yeah.
But God had different plans for me.
Was there in that call, or like as you kind of discerned that call over time, was there a particular part of pastoral ministry that really captured your heart, or was it just kind of the thing in its whole that you just...
It was a thing in the whole, as a whole.
Yeah.
I just did not have that kind of divisive clarity that I could go this way. There weren't that many options back then. If you were going to be a pastor, you were going to be a pastor.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have all the evangelists. There were a few, but there was certainly radio evangelism. I wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
Though I have spoken on radio, but it was pretty, you were going to be a pastor, and a pastor is a pastor. Well, I found out that's not really true.
Yeah.
But that's the way I saw it.